I think in the past, we really thought about the technology first. We now put the person and put our people first. So we really come at it from an end user or a persona perspective.
I'm Jason Warnke, part of the Accenture internal IT organization. I'm glad to be here today with Ursula Fabizek and Sarah Dugan, who lead our end user change and adoption team for internal IT initiatives. We're here today to talk about the important role people play in IT projects and how Accenture handles end user change in these projects. Thanks for joining me today, Ursula and Sarah.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Hey, Jason. Nice to be here.
Great. We're in this fun little studio. We got some professional mics and the whole get up. So this is going to be a fun time talking about a really fun subject. So first off, could you explain the significance and role that end user change and adoption has with our IT initiatives at Accenture?
Yeah, at Accenture, we like to say change is constant for our 450,000 employees around the world. So Ursula and I really help to think about how can we get our folks to understand and use and adopt all of the new technology that we're rolling out. We roll out change at a constant pace.
Right.
And when we think about it, in the recent years, we've learned to have technology actually adapt to people. So it doesn't take as much effort for people to use and learn new tools. But there's always going to be that situation where you have a new process and a new tool that is a little bit more complex. The technology isn't going to necessarily adapt to the person completely. And that's when we need to help our people change their behaviors, change the way they use the tools. So we always think about the fact that it's almost easy to change the technology. Getting people to change is the hard part. And so that's really what we focus on.
Interesting. If I reflect on my consumer consumption of applications and things, I don't necessarily ever depend on anybody taking me through any form of even informal training. It's just if you design it correctly and you're thinking about end user behavior, you can design it into the product in such a way that it's just intuitive.
Yeah, and we have done that a lot with a lot of our tools. And we have a lot of situations where we've done that. Like we've recently rolled out Microsoft Teams, which has become a very intuitive kind of grassroots movement where people have adopted it and started using it. But at the same time, you have tools like a pricing system where we've rolled out recently. We've got some complex policies and processes and rules around pricing. So actually getting them to use the new system and understand how to use it does require some human change.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's interesting you mentioned consumerization of IT because with that flexibility and that desire for the apps to be like consumer-like apps comes some other challenges as well. Like if you look at the number of devices that we use, you've got your laptop, you've got your phone, you've got your tablet, right? There is some other challenges that come with that. And one of them is hey, I want to use my own apps and I want to use my own storage and I want to use a number of things that work doesn't necessarily provide, right?
Absolutely.
So we do have, from a change perspective, we have to think about things like that as well. And as we roll out our programs, like let's say the Bring Your Own Device to Work, we combine that flexibility and the benefit to both the consumer or employee in our case with some of the quote unquote rules that people have to follow as well. So you have to be conscious of both.
Exactly. And you sort of made reference to a few of them, but as you referenced earlier, Sarah, how fast things are changing. With that, I imagine our approach to helping end users change and adopt new technology has also changed in recent years. As you said, technology has changed. How have we approached this whole thing differently than we have in the past?
Yeah, I think in the past, we really thought about the technology first.
Right.
We're a technology shop, right? So we are worried about creating the best technology. We now put the person and put our people first. So we really come at it from an end user or a persona perspective to think about how are our folks going to use these systems and really think about what are the new types of techniques. So we still do all of the same change management processes and methods that we did in the past, but now we do them in a totally different way.
Yep. And a good example of that is, I think, a very heavy use, and which is a fun thing, of gaming.
Right.
And we look at the multimedia ways that we can reach our end users or our employees, right? So we use a lot of gamified learning experiences, kind of short, we call them bite-sized videos, right? Or infographics. And they are very tailored to our employees. I think one of the things that we are very conscious of is that the learning experiences are folded into our employees' daily activities, right? So we don't want to take them away from work. One of them, you mentioned the in-app kind of learning, which eliminates the need for classroom learning with an instructor taking people away for half a day or a day. We really try to focus on personalizing the learning experience, making it highly immersive, highly interactive, so it sticks, right? And that's the whole idea. We want the learning to stick, and we want the learning to be available when people need it.
That's right. We do, like we're doing today, we do podcasts, we do commercials, we do full television series. Like Ursula, your team does some really neat stuff with a television show to teach behaviors of security practices, which is really cool. So actually that reminds me, I do want to talk about this behavior change. So as you stated, getting employees to change their behavior isn't always easy. How do you mitigate challenges with adoption?
Yeah, well, I think, as Ursula said, the techniques and tools that we use today to get adoption there are so different from what we did, even 2 years ago. So there are the new techniques that we use, but then in addition, we really listen to our users.
Right.
So we get feedback from our users, and we get that feedback in a lot of different ways. I mean, one is we just ask them, we do surveys, but now we also have the analytics within the tools. We can see how they're clicking, where they're clicking, how they're using the tool.
Exactly.
That really helps us see how they're behaving today, and then really help them modify that. Again, a lot of that's just in the app, giving them guidance in the app. And then we also build the feedback mechanisms within the app, so they're not going outside and getting an email with a survey. They do have that option, but they can also just click right in the app, provide the feedback, which goes directly to our app teams. They're able then in a very agile way to make changes to the app based on what the users are thinking.
Right. And another tool, we're talking about tools that we've used that was very successful was the 30-day challenge. And the idea there is that you don't give people the knowledge or the skills that they need in one big chunk.
Right.
You give to them in little bites every day to help create that habit that you mentioned, right? So you have to either do or say or reflect on something every day. And the fun part about that type of learning is that you also reach out to your peers or your cohorts, and you share those reflections and share those experiences and get the best practices. And then over the course of the exercise, they kind of become ingrained in your brain and in your heart, right? And that's that principle about changing habits versus just giving it to you once, once and done, right? And you never think about it again.
That's right. You mentioned earlier some of the things that you're doing in information security, using all new techniques. But not only that, you actually are winning awards because of what you guys are doing. I think you're truly leading the way. Can you just maybe talk a little bit more about that example of information security, that everyday, exposure to little snippets of things that people need to? Well, just give us just a quick picture of that information security program. Because
absolutely. And your security is embedded in everything, and it should be embedded in everything, not just at work, but also at work. So what we try to do is actually blend those experiences with our users, because the idea is that if you have those right habits and behaviors at home, you'll bring them into work. And then again, it's the blending of those experiences, real life and digital. But what we tried to do is really keep it simple for our users, keep it short, keep it very, as I mentioned, personalized. And we give them some very cool learning experiences that people complete over a period of time, but there is a steady stream of them as well. And we always try to stay ahead of the game and provide them as fun might not be the best word, but we want the learning to be enjoyable, right? It's not drudgery, especially if you think about the topic, right? Security is not necessarily the funnest thing to learn.
But you've made it fun.
But we've made it fun. And I think that because we always try to push the envelope, and you said, no newsletters, use video, use ways that people really enjoy, right? And, we are looking at VR next. We are looking at things that nobody else has done, because we want our users to have that experience and actually be drawn to the learning, be drawn to the training. People can't wait for the next episode of Hackerland to come out, right? It's like a little telenovela. We have a following. People, after they finish watching an episode, they reach out to us and say, when is the next episode coming out? Because we want to learn kind of what's happening next. So we're already thinking about some new interactive, fun ways for the next round of learning.
Wow, I'm excited to see.
And we're getting input from our users. Like, users are coming to us and say, hey, how about, have you seen that Player One movie, right? Could we do something similar with Easter eggs and trying to, find the,
I love it.
find some, tips and tricks while we are having fun. So that's what we're trying to do.
You mentioned VR. What else is on the horizon for change management techniques and technology? What sorts of other approaches are you all looking at?
Yeah, I think there's so much on the horizon right now. It's a couple of the areas we could talk about. So thinking about AI, artificial intelligence, and applied intelligence. And there's a lot of research now coming out actually showing us that some of that is actually biased, which is surprising for a lot of
Interesting.
people. So I think one of the things we're looking at is as we start to use these new technologies and bots and AI, how do we actually make sure that they are, reacting the appropriate way, that they're treating all individuals equally, and also those still being helpful and
Right.
something that people can really use day to day.
Oh, that's
Yep.
fascinating.
Couple of things I think that come to mind, and we use one of them on a regular basis, and that's storytelling. I think that everybody has heard about it, but it's an extremely relatable and a very powerful tool to talk about work experiences and technology and the applications, pretty much anything, right? You tend to get into people's hearts a little bit more than into people's hands, and I think it's very effective in creating the setting up the experience and getting people to do what you want them to do. So that's something we use in our training a lot. And then the other one that I've heard and I am very interested in and planning to use in the future is visual analytics. I think that Accenture people are data geeks, right? We all want more and more data, and we get a lot of it. But I think the way that visual analytics is going to be presented to users in the future, this kind of 3D experience,
Right.
and being able to model the data and help make the decisions in ways we haven't seen before, I think is going to be extremely powerful.
Awesome. Very cool. And a really exciting space that I think is garnering lots of interest from our clients. Certainly, our teams are learning all kinds of new techniques. And as we always do, we're going to pilot this stuff here inside of IT and then do that with our clients. So awesome for you all to be with me today. Thanks for spending
you.
time with us talking about the future of change management and user adoption. Thanks, Sarah. Thanks, Ursula.
Thank you, Jason.
Thanks, Jason.
Thank you for joining today's podcast. Be sure to subscribe to the Accenture CIO podcast series on iTunes for all episodes.